So today I wanted to introduce our theme of the month, which is roots and wings. And I thought it was an appropriate theme as last week we were at Unity Village, which is certainly a place of the roots of unity. And today being a day we celebrate mothers, another way to be connected to our roots. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Myrtle Fillmore, who is called the mother of unity because, well, she is, she was. And I think that sometimes we like to simplify things just a little too much. Sometimes people put Myrtle in the nurture, caregiver role only. And I think that there's so much more to her. Myrtle Fillmore had a college degree. She was an educated woman, and that is not nearly as common in her time as it is in ours. So Myrtle Fillmore was an educated woman. She traveled to teach. She went places where she felt that she could make the best impact and make a difference. She was grounded in the human experience. We have all of these letters, archival letters that she wrote to people and that people wrote to her. And people weren't asking her questions like, what are the metaphysical meanings of blah, blah, blah? They were saying, how do I make my life better? How do I have less of the pain of this relationship or that's in my body, or I have no money, or all the real experiences of life that people were having. They would write her about them. And she was about practical advice and spiritual guidance. She understood that you the comfort of having someone really listen to you and hear you and see you and give you something practical that you can do is priceless. And if you have that, then you're able to maybe hopefully move into a spiritual solution now that you've had maybe a practical solution. It goes back to that question about teaching a man to fish or giving a man a fish. I say, first feed them and then teach them how to feed themselves or help them figure that out. We learn better when we're not hangry, right? Myrtle Fillmore knew that. And she was an advocate. Because she understood the real experience, the human experience of people that they were having. She, like many spiritual teachers, did not feel like she could just say, oh, I'll just pray, I'll be okay. So she was an advocate. We looked at not just prayer solutions, but real solutions in people's lives. And beyond that, she was an advocate because she understood these things. She was heart and head. So while she was certainly a nurturer and a carer, she was a thinker and she could see bigger pictures that involved both the spiritual practice and the real on the earth things that needed to be done. And she was engaged in a continual reflective journey. We oversimplify things by saying, oh, Myrtle Fillmore had a spiritual revelation and she healed herself. It's more truthful that she had an understanding and it changed her mind. And then she continued to evolve and understand it deeper. Throughout her life, she said, oh, I realize I'm having an error thought or a misunderstanding in this way. And then she would change and she would grow and continue to work on it. And I think that's such an important, wonderful thing to realize, because that seems a lot more attainable to you and me, right? Because because sometimes we hear things and we're like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. But then it takes a while for it to settle in. And then we notice, oh, now I'm having an error thought about this other thing. And you just keep doing the practice. That's what Myrtle did. And if she can do it, then we can do it. So I wanted to share those things because that is the roots. That's the roots of unity. And I think her journey is inspiring, especially when we take it out of, oh, she wrote letters to people and she prayed a lot. She like really was with people and she walked the hard path with people. And she walked the hard path with herself. And so transitioning into the idea of roots and wings, one of the projects that we started got while Bob and I were at Unity Village last week for the Nehemiah Service Retreat, and the evolution of things. There's all of these houses on the Unity Village property. And when they were built to be houses for the people who worked at Unity. It's convenient to have your employees live nearby. And over time, some of them became other things, like they became student housing. Some of my classmates lived in these houses. That's another wonderful way to utilize these spaces. And then now many of them have been transitioned into another way to support the mission. So when they were houses for employees, they supported the mission of Unity. The employees were right there, made things easy. When they were student housing, they supported the mission because it was part of growing Unity and part of making it easy for students to be able to be students. And now as they transition into other ways to generate income, right now they're becoming Airbnbs. It's another opportunity to support the mission by bringing in income from outside sources. And all of that can go straight to supporting the mission and the work of Unity. And so those roots, these houses, in this case, that were built around 100 years ago, getting close to, continue to support the mission. And so I love that because it's a tangible representation of the work that we do that continues to support as we go along. There's so many stories of physical things and choices that were made at Unity, used to be Unity Farm, now Unity Village, that continue to bless us now, all these years later, and support the mission. And so another legacy of Unity movement is being in the lead, being innovative. Charles Fillmore there's a famous story about how in the middle of the night he'd go and crank up the radio broadcast and he'd give these radio broadcast talks in the middle of the night, which might have been breaking the rules a little bit. But it would bounce off and they would hear him in Nigeria and Africa. And now Nigeria is still one of the most thriving areas for Unity Ministries. They had when they started installing telephones for the prayer ministry, for what we call Silent Unity now, that was really cutting edge. It wasn't like everybody had a telephone. And then they had daily word read on the television by movie stars. And then they have apps and podcasts, and now you can send your prayer requests in through an app on your phone or through messaging on Facebook message. There's almost all these opportunities to be connected. We're always innovating and moving forward and seeing what new things we can do. Heck, I do TikTok. And so that's part of our wings. We continue to see where we can go, because we go where we need to be. And that connects to Myrtle Fillmore as being an advocate and showing up where there was an opportunity to help, an opportunity to ease pain and suffering. And so I think that that's part of both of our legacy as humans, as Unity folks, and that work of advocacy and understanding the human experience and where there's opportunities is part of our wings and things for us to really grow into and continue to grow into. I am so thrilled by the embracing of what we used to call the other, we still call the other, but the embracing of people we see as different, and helping really support people and feeling safe and wherever they are. It's a wonderful legacy. And so all of this is about being connected to who we are and where we came from, whether we're talking about our Unity history or our family history, or the part of the world that we live in or have lived in. All of these are parts of our personal roots, but they're not the final answer on who we are, who we can become. But I find that when we are clear and we have an understanding of that, we are able to thrive more. So in our core, we continue to remain curious. Remain curious about who we are, how we can show up, what our next step could be, how we're called to fly, how we're called to be supportive and connected, how we can nurture, how we can spring forth. How can we spring forth as individuals, as a community, as a collective consciousness? How can we spring forth in faith, in compassion, in innovation, in joy? So those are the questions for us to ask all the time, not like we're trying to scramble and find the answer, but that we're always curious. What is mine to do? In faith and compassion and innovation and joy. It can be as simple as saying, I hear you, I see you, to a friend in need, like Myrtle Fillmore, writing a letter, and it can be something that changes the world, whatever that is. So let us spring forth from our roots so we can fly.